Welcome to season 2 of the Happy Sensory Corner podcast. At Mendability, we want to help everyone, but especially when they are vulnerable, to feel happier, more comfortable in their own skin, more confident, proud of themselves, even, so that they can be their true selves and we can all journey together through life more happily. Our contribution is to work on brain health. As our brains grow stronger and healthier, all of us benefit, but especially those among us who struggle with sleep or with sensory processing or with mental image or with speech development. And we developed gentle, family centered, whole brain games that boost brain development and activate the brain's self-healing mechanisms. It's based on the neuroscience field of environmental enrichment. We call it sensory enrichment. And so we're experts in boosting brain development, but there's so much more that parents have to navigate. And for example, we're not experts in parenting. And so today we're thrilled to welcome DJ Stutz to our podcast today. DJ is a seasoned expert in parenting and child development with over 2 decades of experience, primarily teaching kindergarten and specializing in special education and music. But as the eldest of 7 siblings, mother of 5, an adoptive parent, DJ has lived the challenges of parenting firsthand. And her deep commitment to children's rights and education is evident in her roles as a 911 dispatcher, a parenting facilitator, and the former president of the Nevada State PTA, where she tirelessly advocated for increased parental involvement, especially from Latino fathers. DJ's passion for empowering parents led her to create the podcast Imperfect Heroes: Insights into Parenting, where she encourages parents to embrace their imperfections and find joy in the journey. Through her podcast, workshops, and coaching, DJ shares practical advice on managing power struggles, setting boundaries, and recognizing the unique strengths in every child. So we're excited to dive into these topics today and hear DJ's invaluable insights. So DJ, can you share with us your journey? Was there something that happened to little DJ that maybe triggered a spark in you that sort of started your journey?
Probably being the oldest and a girl. And so I was a big sister at 14 months. And my youngest brother was born just 2 weeks before my 17th birthday. And he actually slept in my room. I'm the one that got up with him at night and changed his diaper and all of that. And now he's the one I live closest to. But I just enjoyed that whole process of being kind of a mommy. My mom needed a lot of help, of course. And so I was there. I was one changing diapers and helping with potty training and then moving forward and trying to help my siblings feel good about who they are and what the possibilities were for them. And by the time I hit high school, my career choice that I wanted to do was mommy. That was my career choice. And I just wanted to have that experience. And what a wonderful experience it was. Challenging, yes. And it's supposed to be challenging. So if it's not challenging, do some investigating. It's meant to be a little challenging. And in my workshops, I've told parents that if you have a child that keeps their room clean, gets their chores done, their grades are great, they don't ever argue with their siblings, get them to a mental health professional right away because something's horribly wrong. But then as I was raising my own kids and I started, my youngest son is highly, highly ADHD. And we were struggling with some of those issues and just big personalities. My kids all have really big personalities. And so I started taking night classes, and my husband would watch the kids. And the first class I took was child psychology. And I can remember coming home, it's like 10:30 at night, and I'm waking up my husband and saying, guess what learned? And he's like, well, what? And I said, they're normal. They are all normal. And I was so excited that, all these behaviors that we were kind of dealing with were to be expected and nothing to get too riled up about. And so, anyway, I then kept going with my education, and
Wait, can I want to interrupt you because I'm fascinated.
oh,
What is the most surprising thing that you learned during those night classes? You talk about some of the struggles are actually normal. What's a typical
yeah,
struggle that most of the parents you've
yeah,
worked with take
yeah,
assume is a problem and actually it isn't, or maybe something that isn't a problem that it should be?
right. Yeah. Well, I think a lot of it was the sibling rivalry that was kind of going on. And I learned how to better handle it, but it's normal for kids to kind of siblings to challenge each other and to tease each other and to get angry with each other. And in fact, this is a great place where kids can learn to uh manage issues, problem solve, reach out and hear another person's point of view, and manage your own anger, speak up for yourself. And so all of these really are meant to happen within the family as they're growing. And we need a great parent that can then help them work through that in a positive way that's not going to damage their relationships, but will further enhance their relationships. And I think too, I'm I think I come from a fairly unusual family, but uh, I have one sister and five brothers, and my sister's 7 years younger than I am. And we're both, getting, well, grandma's the whole thing. I've never in my life had an argument with my sister, not one. And so that's unusual, I think. And so I learned a lot from being a big sister about my responsibility and my opportunity to develop these relationships with my younger siblings, and that I could be supportive and helpful and be this fun big sister that took them places and did things with them. Or I could be the crabby, you're stupid, get away from me, all of that. And I don't know what happened there. I think my mom must have done something great, but that was never my attitude. I always wanted to develop that relationship. And then there's a responsibility to being a younger sibling too, and how do they learn those responsibilities? And how do they learn about how the way they handle that is going to affect their entire lives, and their outlook on lives, their outlook on people, their outlook on relationships, all of those things. And so then we're going to help them understand those things, find skills that they can use within these amazing relationships called siblings. I mean, I just spent an hour on the phone with one of my brothers last night, just talking about life and kids and how things. And I currently live in Idaho. We're here about a year and a half now, but he's in Oregon, and yet we can still have these great conversations. And another conversation this weekend over a fabulous football game, and we're all fans of the team, and so having fun with those as adults. But that kind of relationship begins when they're the little guys. And so as a responsible and a good parent, and someone who can, if you don't have those skills now, there are lots of places that you can go. I happen to be a great coach, but to help parents gain those skills in how to develop that in their children.
That's a program.
It
is.
You talk about um, in your coaching about children who internalize negative labels, especially
Mm-hmm.
when they're being called a bad kid. Is
Mm-hmm.
there behavior from the parents where children can assume and interpret the parent's behavior as meaning that the parent thinks that they are being a bad kid?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. When we look at not just the words we say, but we know that most of our communication is not verbal. It's how we hold ourselves, the way we look at our kids. Oh, brother, that can hit a kid really hard. And you may not have said anything, but you've said a lot in your physical language and all of that. And so tone of voice too. I mean, I can say, well, isn't that special? Or I can say, oh, isn't that special? Right? Same words, different tone, very different communication. And I have worked with, so when I was teaching, I mostly, all but 2 years, worked in the lowest income inner city school. So my children were the children of gang members. And so that was a whole education right there. And what
Yikes.
a joy it was. Yeah, it was. Gosh, I got to know people and get over some of the judgments that I make as an individual because I got to see people who, in my, if I hadn't been doing that, I would have never associated with these people. And yet, because of my work and where I was teaching, I got to meet some people who just had amazing stories and amazing hearts. And the circumstances, you know, were difficult for them.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but I did have kids who, their parent would come in and like, he's just a monster. I'm like, no, 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 no. We don't say that, especially when the kid can hear it. But, or, why is he so bad all the time? Or why is she this or that? And so, and I would tell them, we can talk about that if you want. Um, but if I'm telling you what I see and what I know, it might ask for some changes on your part. If you're ready for that, I'd love to have a conversation with you. If you're not ready with that, to make some changes or to hear some things, that's fine too. I'm going to love your kid either way. And we're going to move forward and help your child grow and learn at school. And those conversations went really well. But yeah, there are things that we do all the time and we don't mean to. And so sometimes having someone who has a different set of eyes, a different perspective, looking in, listening to what you're saying, what you're thinking, what your concerns are, and then maybe coming up with some alternatives that, because we have different life experiences, different educations. I mean, my whole education was on early childhood and how kids grow and learn. I won't say my whole education. Actually, I started out to teach high school. I'm really good at history and English. That's my happy place. But as I got further on, I just saw so many holes in the high school kids. Um, and they were holes that started developing when they were very young. So I switched and went to early childhood because of that, and just learned a lot and uh,
The
found.
reason I was asking you about this question where parents' behaviors
Mhm,
around the children makes the child feel like they are not
mhm,
appreciated, or they feel like they're
mhm,
being, I'm a bad kid. My mom thinks I'm a bad kid because I think, and I wonder if you could help put the finger on it and maybe unpack this a little bit. But I think when parents have kids with difficulties, and I'm going
mhm,
to, talking to our kids who are in special ed, who don't read well, who struggle to behave
mhm,
to regulate their behavior, and so they're very excitable and then they distract the whole classroom, or sometimes they become aggressive when the pressure is put on them and they can't handle the stress and they just lash out, that kind
mhm,
of stuff.
mhm.
With or without a developmental delay, you see a lot of those things. Excuse me.
Bless you.
And so parents say, okay, my kid is struggling. I'm
Bless
going to put him in occupational therapy. I'm going to put him in speech therapy. I'm going to put him in all sorts of therapies to fix that.
you.
And
Mhm,
I think that when they do that, they're implying, and the kid is seeing, oh, and the therapist is reinforcing it. Oh, you can't do this. You can't do this. You're a bad kid.
mhm,
They're not saying you're a bad kid, but they're saying you can't do this. And so we end up talking to a lot of adults who talk about surviving their childhood
mm.
therapies, who talk about
So sad.
surviving, and they use words like trauma and torture and
Mhm,
things like behavior modification, where unless they behave a certain way, which is not the way they feel like they want to behave, then they're not going to be accepted in society. So there's a lot of baggage around.
yeah.
There's a lot of opportunities for kids to feel like they're called bad kids. And so
Mhm,
I'd like to talk about that a little bit. Is how how would you I don't know. Now I feel like maybe we should address what would be a good example, Claudie, of something that, and we could ask DJ how to how parents should handle the situation. So did you have an example, Claudie, that you could
Well,
give us?
yeah, I had one this morning, in fact, and I like all of what you say, the tone, the posture, and the words. And the child is 14. He has the diagnosis of severe autism. We've been working for a while, so now he's starting to talk, and he's starting to be naughty, which for me is always a victory. Yeah, congratulations, your child is playing tricks on you. And the trick of that kid is to remove his pants when there are guests. And so mom is horrified, and she said, "You can't do that. It's dirty." And I tell her, okay, it's not dirty. You can use other words. And the mom is not English speaking first language like me. So our English is similar. And I say, you can say it's inappropriate. She said, I never use that word. You can say it's not polite. You can do it in your room. And so that was the first interaction about language and how you talk and if you yell. And she realized that if she was alone in the room and he was doing that, if she looked away, he would wait, and then put his pants back. And so the second conversation we had with this mom about the boy who is developing language, who is developing conversation, is something I want your input on it, because that's something I tell parents. You want to hold the hand, or put your hand on the shoulder, or put your hand on the face, so that there is a physical contact. The child knows that you are the person I'm talking about. Because kids tend to, if mom talks or dad talks, I'm going to look away and at least mentally remove myself. So a physical, gentle contact, then ask a why question, knowing that the kid at that stage is not able to answer, but he's going to think about it. And so you wait, you give 5 seconds, count in your mind to 5, as the child is seeing in his mind what he wants to say. Then you answer and you say, for example, the question, why do you like lollipops so much? Oh, is it because they're delicious? Now the child can say yes or no. He's going to say yes, obviously. But this type of connection where physical interaction is important, tone of voice is important, posture, and using the right words, even if you're upset, and think first. So that's my 2 cents, and I definitely would like to hear you on that.
Yeah. Well, I love what you told this little mom to do, and especially as she's developing English, because is this family in the United States?
They are in England.
In England. Okay, so he
English
is learning
still.
English, right?
Yeah.
So that's the language that he's going to connect with more. But I love some of the things that you brought up and that are so important. One of the things that I try to work with my parents is there's a difference between age appropriate behavior and developmental appropriate behavior. And so just because this kiddo is 13, 14 years old doesn't mean that developmentally he is much younger in his understanding, in his language development, and how the world works. And in fact, if you look at a little kiddo at 2 or 3 years old, they're running around without their pants as often as you can get it. Right. And with one of my boys, we were just so glad when we discovered Batman underwear, because at least we could get underwear on him. But and we lived in Las Vegas. It was hot all the time. And so, but I think too, when you look at what's going on, let's take a minute, let's take a step back and say, all right, my child is X amount of years old, but where are they actually developmentally? Because we can lament, we think, oh, my child should be doing, right? should be doing whatever these things are. And we can worry so much about what should be that we don't address what is.
Yeah.
Well, where is my child right now? And so once I can identify where they are in their developmental progression, put the age aside, their developmental progression, then I can know better, well, what steps then are next?
Yeah.
What is the next appropriate step for that developmental progress? And when you start looking at it in that way, and instead of trying to get them to skip a whole bunch of steps because you're this old, right? Then that's just going to make it worse. But when we can do a next step that they can do, that is reasonable, it's logical, this is where we're going, you're going to start seeing far more progress when
Yeah.
you're dealing at it from that
Oh,
point of view.
and I want to add something that works absolutely perfectly here, because I work with parents to get the child who's nonverbal to speak. And in the development, the neurological development of speech, there is what you see in babies, like blowing raspberries and spitting your saliva, playing with it.
Mm-hmm.
And when they're 3 months old, it is so cute. But the kids I work with can be 10 years old and they start to blow bubbles and spit. And the first reaction of parents is, don't do that.
Mm-hmm.
And exactly what you're saying is happening, which is if the parent is reacting strongly in a negative manner, what we see is kids get stuck and they stay in the phase of development of spitting. And one dad was trying really hard to follow my recommendation to get the child move on and get to the next step of speech development and the next. And but both sets of grandparents were living in the house, and there was no way we could tell those very well proper grandparents to let him spit. And unfortunately, the child got stuck. And 3 months later, he was covering the house, the walls, the mirrors with spit. And we could not move on until something different was happening inside the home.
Right, right. And I love that you're bringing up that thing, because a lot of these things are kind of like embarrassing for the parent. You're out in public and your child, does whatever, spits or farts or whatever happens, and the parent becomes embarrassed. And so I think when we are reacting to our child, especially in public, but at home too, is stop and think, why am I feeling this way? Am I embarrassed for me? Or am I thinking, is this a logical thing for my son or daughter to be doing at this time with whatever developmental stage that they're in, depending on their diagnosis or whatever? But even, average kids will do things that are age inappropriate or whatever, because they're just looking to see if I can get a rise out of mom or dad. Or maybe if I do this and we're in public, I'm going to get what I want faster because they will be embarrassed. So we get rid of our embarrassed thing. Just get rid of it. It's like, oh, here's what you're doing. Well, you can have this tantrum here. That's just fine. But you're still not going to get the Cocoa Puffs in the cereal aisle or, that toy or whatever. That's not how we get it. And so we get so worried about being embarrassed. People are looking at me. Now that I'm the old fart lady, I'm just like, I'm the lady now that I was worried about judging me when I was a young mom. And now I know what's in my brain. And my brain is, oh, wow, this poor mom is just going through it. I want to be supportive. And you never know, I remember one time Christian, he's my ADHD all over the world kiddo. And we were at a mall and he was, lost it, gone. And so I went and I'm looking around for a place to sit down where I could hold him. And the only place I could see right there was in a shoe store. And so I brought him in and we sat down and I'm like, okay, we can calm down. I'm holding you. I am here until you calm down, though. We won't move on. Whenever you want to move on, we can go. All you have to do is breathe and let me know, and I'm going through all of that. And this sweet lady, who's probably the age I am now, but she came up to me and patted me on the back and said, "You just hang in there, sweetie," and walked on. And that meant the world to me, like, because I'm thinking, everyone's thinking I have this terrible child and I'm being a terrible mother. But just that one small act of kindness. And so I think the reality is when we're young parents, that number one, people aren't judging us as harshly generally as we think they are. We project that onto them. And then the other thing is, and if they're judging us that harshly, okay,
bad for them.
Your opinion means nothing to me.
Yeah.
And I know you how, and I'll meet you again when, and so we can come to a realization that their opinion really doesn't count. But those who are supportive, and there's more that are supportive than we realize when we're young parents, that's just, we don't know. And especially today, it's actually even gotten worse, I think, but people are more hesitant to say something like, "You hang in there, sweetie," or to say something positive and supporting, because you don't know how it's going to be accepted and understood. And so people tend to not do that, even though in their hearts, they're saying and sending positive vibes and thoughts. So
is that the protocol you give to parents when they feel embarrassed? What are the steps? 1, 2, 3, if you have one suggestion?
Yeah. Well, and I guess it would depend. So one of the easy ones, it's just an easy scenario to give off is, you've got a kiddo and you've just picked them up from childcare or from school or whatever. And while we're out, we're going to rush over to the grocery store to get what we need because we're already out, right? And so we rush to the grocery store, and this kiddo's been like in school all day or in childcare all day, and they've missed you, and they may have had a good or a bad day or whatever, and they're hungry and they're tired. And so let's take them to the store. Right? And so we go to the store and we are shocked that they are throwing a temper tantrum in the middle of the cereal aisle because they want the Lucky Charms or whatever. And that's not what you're there for, or maybe you're not into those sugar cereals, the dyes, don't get me started. But so they're having a fit on the floor, and so you can say, take a second. They can cry, they'll be fine. Crying's fine. Take a second to center yourself, right? Okay, I've got this. Tell yourself, I've got this. I know what to do. So then from there, you can say, I see you're upset because you want, the Fruit Loops, but we're not getting Fruit Loops today. And honestly, this is not how you get the Fruit Loops, but I see you're upset. And sometimes I want to cry too when I'm upset. You can cry here. Everyone's watching you, but if that's where you want to cry, so you might want to point that out too. Other people are watching you cry, but if that's fine with you, that's good. Or if you need to keep crying, we can go out to the car and you can cry as long as you need to, or we can be done and move on. And so now it's their choice. Now they are making choices, but let's plan ahead. How about we do that? How about before we go to the grocery store, let's spend 5-10 minutes at a park, let them run around and get that energy out and have some fun. Let's have a list that they can hold and say, oh, what else is on the list? And now they have a job to do. Or maybe it says, oh, we need 3 cans of pineapple. Well, can you help me count them? Let's get them in. Now you're involving. They're not just wandering around bored and tired and hungry, and I don't want to do this, but now they're part of the process. So let's do some things that we can plan ahead with so that we avoid, nothing's going to get rid of them all the way, because that's just human nature. Anyone says something works 100% of the time, run away because they're either lying or selling you something. But this will help lessen not only the number of tantrums, but the length of their tantrums as well. And as soon as they see too and come to the understanding that this is not how I get what I want, the minute I show this behavior, I am not getting what I want, right? Then it loses its usefulness. And so you're going to see decreases there. One of the things that I always did on my lists is that, because I always forget something, don't you? You get to the store and you have your list, and then there was something you meant to get and it's not on the list. So we always had this rule that you can get one thing that is not on the list. And so my kids were allowed that too. And so they would want, well, I want this. All right, well, then that's your one thing. So we're not getting anything else beyond that. Are you okay with that? Oh, yeah. All right, then we're good. And so now do you see what I'm saying? We've got some engagements and some choices and options and things that they can do so that we're now avoiding the vast majority of these types of situations.
That's perfect. A very good plan.
How does that fit in the world of fostering a positive self-image in the children versus fostering a negative self-image in the children? Out of all the things you said, I can pick out all the ways that you have been fostering a positive self-image, but for our audience, can you pick out you empower the children with choice because you say how you feel and the result of the situation because you prepare ahead of time because can you unpack this example that we just gone through, which is a perfect example? I think everybody with or without a child with special needs is going to go through that.
Exactly. And what I've found too, and I'll get to your question, but a lot of the strategies that we use for kids with, and I'm doing my air quotes, special needs, really work with, again, air quotes, typical kids. A lot of these strategies are good for just different developmental stages. And so we can move forward with that. So here's some of the things that we're teaching is when we pick up a child and say, we've got to go to the store. And it's best, even if you can even tell them before in the morning, you drop them off. I'm going to pick you up. We need to go to the store right after. Now they have it in their head. They've got something in their mind. And then if we say, you know what, you've had a long day, let's go and play 10 minutes at the park. I've got my watch. We'll set the timer and let's run around and be crazy. And then we'll go to the store. Now you're telling this child, you're worth my time. Well, I'm in a hurry. Yeah. Well, would you rather spend 10 minutes at the park playing with your kiddo or 10 minutes in the cereal aisle dealing with a tantrum? 10 minutes is 10 minutes.
We know that love is spelled Time, right?
Absolutely. And then don't just sit on the bench and watch them play, get there, go down the slide, have fun with them, let them push you on the swing. Actually, that pushing, and you're going to know this with a lot of our special needs kids, that physical pushing, that the sensation of that is soothing to a lot of our kids with special needs and with sensory issues. And so let them push you on the swing, and now you're engaged and you're part of their life and stuff. And then now, okay, here's our list. Can you be in charge of our list? Oh, I am capable now. My mom or my dad trusts me with this list. This is great, So now they're not just you're dragging them along, you're ignoring them. Come on, we got to go. We're in a hurry, whatever. But now you're engaged with them. Sweetie, we need, what does it say? 2 cans of chili. There's the chili right there. Can you give me 1, 2? Now we're supporting academics in shopping, aren't we? We can even compare. Well, do we want to get this can of pineapple or this other brand of pineapple? Which one do you think is better? Now they're starting to categorize and sort. And so we're bringing all kinds of things into there. But then they become part of, I think it was Tony Robbins, but I'm not sure. But they were talking about work-life balance. And he said, there's no such thing. It's integration. When you can integrate things, when you can integrate your kiddos into your life and into your daily, whatever experiences are and responsibilities are, now they become confident. I am trusted with this. I get to do this. You value me because you've allowed me to be in charge of this. And so 2 days a week right now, I retired from teaching, but they suck you back in. So 2 days a week, I am up at the elementary just north of us, working with behavior challenging kiddos, two specifically. And it's just really interesting to me that when, first off, they finally feel comfortable that I am here to help you. I am not here to control you. I'm not here to, make you do what I want you to do, whatever. I'm here to help you, to have friends, to do well, to feel happy, let's get things done. And so when they get comfortable that you are there to help them, and trust me, giving into them every time is not helping them. No. But giving them choices, helping them see, helping them understand. And that's just going to come through experience. It's not you sitting down and saying, well, if you behave this way, you'd have more friends. That's not what's going to teach them. It's the experience and the opportunities to go through that then is going to help them move forward. Did that help with your question?
Yes.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
what I heard
super.
two words that if they use those and if they keep those two words in their minds, the parents will foster positive self-image in them. I heard time. If you give them your time and they spend time with you, then they feel valued. They feel like they're, um, seen, and they're not pushed away as invaluable, useless. I don't want you in my, I'm trying to clean up the house. You're distracting me. You're in my way. Stay away. Versus I'm trying to clean up the house. Can you take this broom and help me with that corner?
Mm-hmm.
You know. Then he's in a corner away from you. You get what you wanted, but he didn't see that. He said, "Oh, I'm part of the team. I'm a
Exactly.
trusted a member of the team," which is the second one that I heard you say, trust. So I think, is there, trust versus control? If they feel controlled, they don't feel trusted. So how can they
Right.
turn a situation where they wish they could control the child into, let's see if I can feel this, make this child feel like he's trusted or she is trusted.
Right.
And often we'll probably see that giving them that level of trust, they'll rise up to it.
Right.
So is there another one that you would add to this list? Or keywords to keep in mind when they're dealing with their children? And
Yeah.
dealing with their children is such a poor choice of words on my part.
I know what you mean. I know what you mean. And I think too, we talk about the power plays that we do with our kids. And so if we say, you have to do this, this is not what we do, or whatever, you're going to do this, then it becomes that power struggle, right? So then going back to our cereal aisle, if our kid's down having a temper tantrum and we tell them, stop crying, firm voice, right? We're honestly, how am I physically going to make that child stop crying if that's not what they're going to do?
Mm-hmm.
Tape their mouth shut, get some duct tape. I don't know. I mean, how honestly are you? That's one thing that the child absolutely has control over, is kind of what comes out of their mouth. Now, they may realize if I say this, I might get hit. Happens. Or if I say this other negative thing will happen. But that's a price I'm willing to pay to have this moment here with my screaming and yelling. So the reality is, understand what are the things that you can honestly manage, and then what are the other things that your child is really going to manage. And then we need to give them the tools to help them understand how to manage those things appropriately. And so I think avoid the power struggles. And so when you're asking them, I say, you're going to eat that. I can remember one time, I'm growing up and my mom made these Brussels sprouts. They were horrible. And, and I was not to get up from the table until they were gone. 10 o'clock at night, I was asleep with my face in the plate. it was worth me to sit there and not eat those Brussels sprouts. I wasn't eating them. And eventually she was like, okay, took the plate away and shooed me off to bed. But so really recognize what those, when you're setting up a power struggle, and are you willing to pay the price? Because oftentimes they are very willing to pay the price. They're willing to get into trouble over this behavior to accomplish what I want. So let's find another way around that where it's not the power struggle.
And sometimes I see, just interjecting, that with the children, we help to get into the typical development from severe autism to mainstream school. They have to transition into the, I'm going to do naughty things to get attention, whichever that is, because until now, I did not even know I was getting attention, but now I control. So you're right. This is the time where, I never had to discipline my kid. How do I do that? And this is when they listen to your podcast.
Yes. Well, thank you. And I think too, I mean, that's kind of like the class clown syndrome as well. When you have a child that maybe is struggling with learning, but, and they don't want to feel bad or, but they find they can make someone else laugh. And that gets them, some attention. The other kids think they're funny and whatever. And so they'll build up with that. And so even though it may be at an inappropriate time, this is how they're getting positive attention, is that class clown syndrome, or, however they're managing it. And so let's look at the meaning behind that behavior. And I remember telling my kids are hysterical. They are the funniest people on the planet. And I can remember telling them, I can laugh and you're still in trouble. Just because I'm laughing doesn't mean you're getting out of this, because they could make me laugh. They just made me laugh. But so let's look at, what is the behavior behind it? Is it avoidance? Is it looking for attention? Is it, whatever it is that they're trying to accomplish? And then let's see how we can help them achieve their goals in a more appropriate way.
So I'm still hearing time and trust as something to keep in mind. What's the need behind the behavior? Maybe they wanted more time. Maybe they wanted to feel valued. Maybe they wanted to interject and say, I exist, I'm here, or I'm in pain, or I'm hungry, or and I don't know how to communicate this, or I don't even know. Some kids are so developmentally so affected by their symptoms, they don't know that they're feeling hungry. They just feel uncomfortable to know if it's their need giving them pain or and so they're just trying to. So what's the need behind the behavior? I still see time or trust. Is there another one?
Yeah. Wow. And I think just love, that positive, no matter what happens here, kiddo, you are loved. I don't care how much trouble you get in at school.
Yeah.
I don't care how many people you run around with your pants off. Whatever it is that I'm going to help you through this, but no matter what, you are still loved. And so when they feel that, when they come into the room and you light up and you smile, even when they've had a bad day, when you light up and smile and say, I know we've had a bad day, but I'm so glad you're here with me. And we give them that sensation that you are valued and loved in this home. And, wherever, that kids will gravitate toward that. When you think about your favorite teacher growing up, was it the teacher that was always on your case? Or was it the teacher that made you feel like you were something special? Same thing with
Thank
parents.
you. I think we found our third word, that to finish our the time and trust obviously come from love, but feeling safe, feeling unconditionally like the day has just started. I haven't done anything to deserve time or trust, but just walking into that room, this person is interested, cares, and makes me feel safe when I'm around them. They provide a safe environment where I can make mistakes, that kind of stuff.
Mhm.
So I want to call it safety or love, or is there like one word that
Yeah.
encompasses everything you just said?
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, because safety and love are right there. Um, but they can be different things though too. The
Yeah.
child can be in a safe environment and not feel loved. And a child can be in an unsafe environment but still feel loved. You know, life
Yeah.
happens. When I'm talking about when I was teaching and my children, um, my students were the children of gang members. There were times when they were in very unsafe situations, but those parents still loved those kids. And so I see them.
Yeah.
So maybe it's a four thing. I don't know,
There you
instead
go.
of three.
Love, safety, time, and trust. Those are
Yeah.
words to keep in mind when you want to foster a positive self-image in your children and try and avoid as much as possible reinforcing any possibility of negative self-perceptions. They're going to be putting on themselves negative self-image, self-perceptions all the time, and it's our job
Yeah.
to compensate and push those negative
Yes.
self-perceptions with our consistent love, safety, time, and trust in any situation possible. So good luck with that.
Yeah. Just keep those, write them on your wall, embroider them on a pillow.
Because
Uh-huh.
I'm
Keep
looking
those
at,
four
the
things in
sign
mind.
behind you that says Imperfect Heroes, the name of your
Hmm.
podcast. Is this the name of
Yeah.
your coaching program too?
Yes. Yeah. You can find us at Imperfect Heroes.
Perfect.
We're .net though. We're not .com.
Imperfectheroes.net. This is where you
Hmm.
can find DJ to be
Yeah.
coached, to be trained on all those
Yeah.
beautiful things. Thank you so much for being part of our journey with this podcast
Thank
too,
you for
DJ.
having me.
Yeah.
And
Thank you.
to
Thank you.
everybody listening, have a blessed week.
Bye.